For those of you who don't know me, my name is Lori Space Day. I'm third generation zookeeper at Space Farm Zoo and Museum, and I totally love my job. There's always things going on that happen. It gets a little crazy. Those of you who do know me might not know this little fact about me. Number one, I speak 6 languages. I speak English, I speak German, I speak Yiddish, I speak scientific, I speak a smattering of animals, so I'm going to put them all in one category. And then I do speak my native language, redneck. So keep that in mind whenever you listen tonight. Language is a very important thing to me, and the nuances of language totally fascinate me. But before we get on to the language, did anybody else see the snow today? I mean, were you all as depressed as I was when it started snowing? I really couldn't believe it. It brought back memories of the last snowstorm we had 2 weeks ago, when we all had generators. I mean, my dad has a generator, my brother Parker has a generator, Hunter has a generator, this building has a generator, the monkeys have a generator, and Doug and Lori have a generator. Well, Doug and Lori's generator broke the first day. But it's okay, because the monkeys had a generator. You gotta keep your priorities straight. But language is very important here at the zoo, and we have to be careful because there's nuances that could go wrong. Like for instance, I have a bird, and he flew in to a garage next to Stoke State Forest. And the lady says she didn't know what it was. It was a big parrot, right? It's a 4-foot parrot, bright red parrot, this big. Come on in, Jen. The 4-foot parrot, this big. And the lady, it flew into her garage and she didn't know what it was, so of course she called the North American Homing Pigeon Association. Now, I hate to break it to you, but there's a lot of difference between a homing pigeon and a parrot. A homing pigeon and a parrot. Ladies, I don't care what they tell you, size does matter. Keep that in mind. Oh, Dad, you're frowning at me.
I'm missing Jeopardy.
You're missing Jeopardy. Anyway, so this bird's name, of course, because it was a red bird, I named it Rhett, as in, I originally named it Scarlet, as in Gone with the Wind. Well, turns out that it's not a scarlet macaw. I hadn't worked with scarlet macaws in 15 years since I had left the pet shop. Turns out that it was a green-winged macaw. Okay, I'm flexible, so I changed its name to Rhett. So Rhett the parrot is a wonderful bird. Speaks, does a lot of things. When the man brought him from the Homing Pigeon Association, man brought him to me in a case, and Rhett was a beautiful bird, looks good, very nice, was talking, looks at me, rolls one eye over to the side of his head, cocks his head and says, "Cracker?" And I didn't know if he was hungry or making a comment on my ethnicity. Now, I'm really glad to hear you all laugh at that, because I went down to Channel 12 with the bird, doing my good deed, trying to find a home for this bird. So we took it down to the pet stop on Channel 12 in Edison, New Jersey. I went down with our vet, Dr. Ted Spinks, and we met up with Dr. Voynick, who's the host of the show. We gave him the rundown on the bird. So on air, I tell the entire story, minus the size does matter comment, to the audience on air. Now, there's 6 cameramen, and the 3 of us are on stage, and I'm talking about Rhett the bird and the fact that he called me a cracker. Well, you could have heard a pin drop. You could have heard a pin drop in that studio. I don't know what to tell you, but on an hour-and-a-half ride home, I got an hour-and-a-half lecture on the word cracker. I didn't know it was a bad word. I thought it was just, like me, low-class white trash. That's kind of what I thought it was. So, anyway, so now I have to be very careful when I'm around Rhett, not to use the cracker word. But he keeps asking, and I keep saying, no, not me. Doesn't work too well. But I love my birds. I take care of the parents here at the zoo. We have another bird. His name is Buddy. Now, he came in because a friend of mine had cancer, and he needed a place to place this bird. Again, it's a macaw. It's this big. He's got a nasty beak on him like an eagle, and they can take your finger off if they want to. Being a zookeeper is not a job for the faint of heart. So Buddy comes in, and of course, we run a family organization. I have to make sure that this bird is not going to drop the F-bomb every other word. Because little Susie Q and Johnny that come with Mommy to the zoo don't want to hear the F-bomb word coming from a bird's mouth. So I keep Buddy separated for a couple of weeks, and every now and then I walk past him and I drop a bad word. And a parent has to hear that word about 1,000 times before he will start repeating it. So everything cleared out. Buddy was great. It was wonderful. He didn't drop one curse word. Fine. So I moved Buddy up into the parrot aviary with the other parrots. However, Buddy hates me. Buddy will fly across that cage to bite me. He will come at me every chance he gets. Every time I walk in there, he's like trying to bite me. So every time I'm in there, it's, don't bite me, Buddy. Don't bite me, Buddy. Don't bite me, Buddy. Well, that lasted for about a year. And then one day I'm walking past the bird aviary and I hear my parrot Buddy say, bite me, Buddy, bite me, Buddy, bite me, Buddy. So I taught the bird to say bad things. So every time I walk out that zoo door and the birds are on the hill, they see me coming and the one bird says, cracker, and the other bird says, bite me, Buddy. The zoo, you know? We have a lot of people that come through the zoo in many different cultures, and I find it very interesting, all the different cultures that come here, and especially the Hasidic culture. We have quite a few of them come on certain traveling days, and it's always very interesting. The Hasidic culture has a lot of family, a lot of kids in their family, and that's wonderful for them. It's also wonderful for us, because they pay at the door. But one day, I'm helping out at admissions because it's a busy day. A lot of Hasidic people are coming in. And a man comes through with his wife, beautifully dressed, and he's very nice looking. And they've got 6 kids, stair-step kids, in a bun in the oven. That's kind of typical. So they go out to the zoo. And immediately the man comes running back in. And he says, oh my God! It's so terrible! The chickens, they're fighting! Can't you do something about it? I said, okay. And I told the ladies at the desk, I'll be right back. I figured, all right, we've got a cockfight. I've got to go break it up. So I go outside, and it's a hen and a rooster. Now, I know there's a language barrier, and I know a little bit of Yiddish, but not enough to give a sex education class. So I'm talking to this guy, and I know I can't touch him, so I kind of say, sir, come here. You know, we're moving away from his kids and his wife, and the wife is standing there, she's got her long skirt on, and the kids are hiding behind it like it's another Armageddon, you know, and the chickens are still doing it, you know. And so I said to the man, you know, I said to him, sir, they're making bacon. And then I'm like, oh, dummy me, he's a Jewish guy, no pork. So I said, okay, I'll upgrade, I'll go country. They're knocking boots. That's it. No comment. He had no facial recognition. He had no idea what I was talking about. So then I said, the horizontal jitterbug? And he's like, you don't dance. I said, oh, okay. So he keeps going, and I'm thinking all these different things rolling through my head. He's making Whoopi. Oh, Whoopi Goldberg. She's a good Jewish girl. So I'm going through all of the things in my head, trying not to drop the F-bomb. You know, I'm really trying hard not to drop the F-bomb, because I'm a good girl. All right? I'm a good girl. I'm a good girl. Some men would say great, but most would say good close, you know? So I'm going through my list, and I'm thinking, okay, mentally, here we go. All right, we're going to go. How about the beast with 2 backs? Redneck girls don't read the Kama Sutra. What's the matter? So, all right, so we didn't get that one either, and I'm going through all the things in my head that I could think of making Whoopi. They're doing the deed, they're breeding, and then he finally clicks on, and he says, yes, they're bleeding, yes, you see the drops of blood from her head. And I said, no, sir. And then finally, the one language that broke the language barrier was sign language. Now, it was not the American Sign Language. It was the American slang sign language. But that worked, and we went from there. After that, he scooted his kids along and said, come on, we're going to the next exhibit. but let's go see the bears. It's like, oh, geez. So there's always things happening here, and the senses and nuances of language are very important. Sanity in a zookeeper's world is a very, very fine line, because I can go out and talk to the tigers. No problem. The tigers talk to me. I understand them. No problem. But if that tiger starts speaking English, I got a problem. Now, I go talk to the birds talk to me. Now, if the parrots start talking to me in English, that's okay. So it's kind of a fine line. I can talk lion, I can talk fox, I can talk a number of different languages in the animal kingdom, but you do have to keep track of who's talking English, who's speaking English. So that's pretty cool. Now, one day we had a very interesting thing happen. Our kangaroo broke his leg. Now, that was a very sad thing. Our main male kangaroo broke his leg. So we called Dr. Spinks, and he comes over and gives him a shot, and then we bundle him into the car. Dad's driving his Explorer. I'm watching the kangaroo in the back seat. I also, at the time, was raising a baby lemur on a bottle. But I'm in the little tiny skinny jump seat, because there's a bigger jump seat and a skinny jump seat. I'm in a skinny jump seat, which I didn't fit in real good, but anyway, I was there. And so we take the kangaroo over to Dr. Spinks's, which is about 20 minutes away from here. That's fine. Dr. Spinks fixes the kangaroo's leg, uses a drill, hollows the leg, puts a rod in it, just like they do for people. I didn't know that could happen, but they did. So, great, everything's hunky-dory, and we're on our way home. We put a soda bottle over the end of the kangaroo's cast. The kangaroo now has a cast on his leg. Put a soda bottle over his cast, so the moisture from the grass would not get into the cast and cause a problem. Smart thinking. Who'd have thunk? Anyway, so we're on our way home. Dad's driving, right? And we get to about to Augusta, about a mile away from the animal clinic, and I start hearing, and I look around, and the kangaroo's kicking his leg, trying to get rid of that soda bottle. And then he's tapping on the glass on the car. I figured, oh shit, I got big trouble. And I'm in the back seat with a little monkey in a little hat. So I put the monkey in the front seat with Dad. I said, Dad, the kangaroo's waking up. Drive a little faster. He said, oh, we'll get there. Don't worry about it. Yeah, that's easy to say from the front seat, Pops. Anyway, so we're coming home, and I'm looking over the hill and dale, and I hear the tapping, and I turn around, and now the kangaroo who was sleeping is now winking at me. It's like, this is bad. He's going to wake up. So I leaned over, and I pushed him down. And Dad says, just hold him down. We don't have too far to go. I said, okay, that's great. Now, the head of the kangaroo was to the front of the car. The tail of the kangaroo was to the back of the car. I was in the jump seat, leaning towards the back of the kangaroo, and I'm sure you can see where this is going. I've got my hands on his hip. He wakes up and starts to wiggle, and he gets up on one leg and his tail. And I figured, oh my God, I got trouble. He's going to break a window. He's going to be jumping over the fields. He's going to end up at Ideal Farms. And I'm not going to be able to catch him because there's not big enough fences. It's going to be terrible. So I did a Hail Mary, and I pulled his good leg out from underneath him, and I flopped my body on top of him. So we're driving home, and all of a sudden, Dad makes a left-hand turn down Lynn Smith Road. Dad, where are you going? Let's go home. I've got to get this kangaroo back. He's waking up. Dad says, well, I just thought I'd go look and see if there's any dead deer on this road home. So I said, oh, please, Dad, just drive fast. So he says, okay. So he's driving, and all of a sudden, Dad slows down. I'm doing 69 with the kangaroo in the back of the car, and he's going slow up the top of the hill. And I said, Dad, you got to drive faster. And Dad says, it's a blind hill, and there's a lady in front of me. I can't pass her. I said, Dad, you better pass her. So anyway, we get home. We get the kangaroo back in. We tell the guys we're there. The guys are supposed to meet us at the gate. No guys to be seen. But Dad and I managed. We put the kangaroo back in the enclosure. And little do you know, after all this time, the kangaroo's waking up in the car, he's struggling to stand up, all this other stuff. The kangaroo hops into the enclosure, lays down and takes a nap. Like, oh, thanks. That really worked out well for the kangaroo. In the meantime, that's how I ended up having a very special encounter with the kangaroo. I would like to say, though, to my dad and Dr. Spinks' credit, that Dr. Spinks did give that kangaroo a leg to stand on because he fathered a child and 3 days later, and then we had a baby kangaroo a little while down the road.
Wow.
So it all turned out for good, but you know, I don't know if it's going to be on my resume. I'll put that on my resume along with she can deodorize skunks.
And kiss an emu.
And kiss an emu. I can kiss emu.
Yes, you can.
Anyway, so that's, you know, the exciting things happen here all the time, but there's some things that are a little different. One day, I was painting a white building white. Okay? It was the height of my artistic career. You're laughing? I painted a white building white. And as I'm painting in full uniform, trying not to get my uniform dirty, I'm painting a white building white, and the lady taps me on the shoulder. And she says, "Do you work here?" And I thought for a minute, I said, "You can't say what you're thinking, Laura." Because, you know, you're going to turn around and you're going to say, "No, I don't work here. I just regularly break into zoos and grab a white brush, steal their uniforms, and paint a white building white." The lady wasn't quite catching on. But then when I turned around, I saw that the type of person that I was dealing with. Number one, she had stiletto heels on to come to a zoo. And there's a little story there. And then she had one of those really cute little cami types with, you know, a lot of bazooms at the top. And I don't know why they call them a cami top, because they don't camouflage nothing. But, and she had her tight leggings on, and I thought I had heard that lion say, "Oh dear, you should not be wearing those leggings." But that could have been in English, so maybe I need to negate that. Anyway, so the lady's standing there, and I just very kindly turned around and said, "Yes, ma'am, I do work here." And she says, "Do you know you have an alligator in the pond?" And I said, "Yeah." And then I just said, "Oh God, one of those." And I turned around and kept painting, all right? So the next day I'm working on another project in the zoo. Somebody else comes up to me and says, "Do you know you have an alligator in the pond?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And turn around, I kept my project, and that man walked on down the road. A couple of days later, another person comes up to me and says, "Do you know you got an alligator in the pond?" And I turned around and said, "What is it with the alligator in the pond thing? I made the damn cage. My husband and the guys made the cage. I raised the alligator. Yes, I know. I've got an alligator in the pond. Matter of fact, there's 3." He said, "Yeah. But they're floating around by the island." And I said, "Oh. I better check that out, because there is a preschool on the hill." We do have some things we need to worry about here. So anyway, I came back down and I looked out there, and yep, there's 3 of my babies. They're 4 foot long. They may be 4.5, bigger than I could reach. And I had raised them from the size that this one is over here. I've raised them since they were about 18 inches to 2 foot long. So they're swimming around. I figured, oh boy, okay, that's good. Well, it was later in the fall, and I know when the water gets cold, they will come up by the nursery where it's shallow to bask in the warmer water, because that's how I caught the other alligator that got out of the pond. But we're not going to mention that. And so the alligators are out in the pond. A week or so later, the weather's really great, and I decided I'll go out, and there's an island out there with a deer statue on it. It has some prickly bushes, and the weeds grow up in it. So I figured I'll take out the well-known gloves, and I will go pull the weeds. Great. So I'm out there, and I'm just singing, I'm having a good time. Dad and my husband Doug, who also works at the zoo, is fixing the swing set out by the side of the pond. Great. So I row the boat all the way out to the pond. And I'm singing, I'm having a happy time. Now, how many of you here have seen the movie Lake Placid? Anybody?
Yeah.
Well, I happen to love that movie. And especially the part where Betty White says, "Come to Mama, baby," and the alligators come in, right? So when I had these alligators as little tiny babies, every time I fed them, I would say, "Come to Mama, baby," and the alligators would come to eat. So I figured, okay, fine. So I'm singing and having a good time, not thinking anything about the alligators, because it wasn't even that cold. It was time for them to come up near shore. I'm standing there, I'm weeding away, and I'm having a good time just singing to myself, and Dad says, "Hey, guess what? You got company. And I said, what? Who's here? And my husband says, no, it's the gators. They're circling the island. I said, oh, okay. And I said, well, maybe I'll catch one. Yeah, well, you could try, no problem. So many a times I have been with my father, who is an icon in the zoological world, and I have seen him take off his t-shirt, whip it into a knot, and turn it into a snake bag. So I figured, okay, I've got a t-shirt on. I'm going to make it into a snake bag. Right? And then I remembered there's a preschool on the hill. You cannot get naked in front of preschoolers. They're going to arrest you. So it's like, all right, what do I got? I have a pair of welding gloves. I don't have a crate to put them in. I'm going to have to tie them up with something. All right, I've got a hat band. Too short. Okay. What else do I have? I have a belt. Oh, didn't wear a belt that day. All right. I have a bra. There we go. So I'm out on the island and I take one arm and I figure, okay, so I'm ready. So I take off my welding gloves and I hit him on the side of the deck of the pond and I say, come to mama, baby, come to mama. Wouldn't you know, damn, one of those alligators comes right out and up by my feet. And he's a 4.5-foot, 5-foot alligator and his mouth is going like that. He expects to be fed and I don't have any food. But I did have a bra. So I took my one sleeve, I tucked my arm in, got into the back, and I unhooked. And then the wind blew, and the sleeve went floppy flop, and the alligator got spooked, and he went back in the water. And my dad and my husband are sitting there saying, ha ha ha, never thought you'd get him, ha ha ha. All right, that's fine. Things are not always successful the first time. So the next time, after I finished my weeding job, I figured, all right, I'm going to catch that sucker. So I go and I row the boat to shore. And I come back with a crate and a net and the bucket that I fed him in and a pair of tongs because I used to hit the tongs on the bucket to make the noise to say, come to mama, baby. So I get out there. I'm on the island. Dad and Doug are still working on the swim set. And now I've got 3 alligators. Nowhere to be seen. Like darn. So I hollered over to Doug and I said, hey honey, where'd those gators go? And he's there, they're way down there by the windmill. And Dad says, forget it, you're never gonna get them. I said, give me a chance. So I rev up my voice and I say, come to mama, baby, come on, big boys, come on over here, come here, big boys, come to mama, I got goodies for you, come here. I got food for you, come on, big boys. Well, son of a gun. One of them starts swimming right for me. I put the net under the water, I grab it, and because this alligator swim on top of the water, alligators swim on top of the water. So I put the net under the water, I catch the alligator, I flip the net upside down, and I'm hollering, Yahoo! And by that time we had, well, that wasn't exactly the words I used. But I'm a good girl, And by that time we had about 50 people lined up on the fence out here watching me catch this alligator. So now I've got an alligator that's 4.5 foot, 5 foot long in a 4-foot net. And from here to there is only 4 foot. So I'm trying to dance on this net. I'm on the rim. I've got the alligator upside down. He's half caught in the net. But I've got my pet taxi open. I'm ready. I haul him up. And I have to dance, and I put him in a crate. And then I'm like, gotcha, you sucker! Yeah, I was really happy. And I hollered real loud. And so then I'm standing there basking in my glory. The crowd is applauding me from the shoreline. And my dad holds up his cell phone. And I said, Dad, I left my cell phone on shore in case I ended up in a drink. And my father says, no, it's the state police. The lady from the preschool called. There's some crazy lady calling little boys out for goodies and stuff. And that's how I almost got arrested for catching an alligator. There's always funny things happening here at the zoo. And during that same episode, it turned out to be, well, you've heard of a wardrobe malfunction. We don't like to advertise it, but we had an enclosure malfunction, and the wire that held the bottom of the enclosure together under the water, where nobody could see it, had rotted away. So not only did the 4.5, 5-foot alligators got out, but also the 9-foot alligator got out. And that's an alligator that I had raised also. And we was, we waited until fall because he wasn't going to be very cooperative, I'm sure. So we waited until fall. And then one day I observed very astutely where the alligator came out on shore to bask in the sun, just like I knew he would. And so then, of course, I said to Dad, hey, that alligator's out basking on shore. And Dad says, nah, it's just one of those little babies, you can't tell the difference. I said, no, I can tell the difference. Oh boy. Travis, your dreams have come true. Hold on. Somebody want to go rescue Chester, who's attacking that poor man? We have a goat escape. There's another story for you. Anyway, here comes Shelly, the goat rescuer. Yay! Hopefully it's only just one. Upstaged by a goat. Yeah, come on. This is my life, you know. Hey, Chester! Chester, what's your problem? Do you want me to keep my Chester? Oh boy, okay. Hey! Anyway, so back to my alligator story. We do have a 9-foot alligator, 9.5 foot, 10 foot. They're really hard to measure because they won't stand still for that long, do they? So he was swimming in the pond, and he came out, and he was sitting on the side, and I had talked to my father. I said, I'm going to set up a snare. So I went and set up a nice big fat rope snare. And of course, my brother Eric, the professional trapper, decided that was not a good snare. So he came up and put up a better snare, and on that snare we put it so the alligator would catch it on his neck, and then it had a milk jug on the other end. So when he went out into the pond next time, then we would be able to watch where the milk jug is and know where the alligator is. So that worked pretty good. So the alligator went out into the pond. We decided that that was going to be the day we caught the alligator. So I realized my own weaknesses. The guys are stronger than me, but I can row that boat no tomorrow. So I got in a John boat. John boat has a flat back end. And we had another gentleman here, his name was Kyle. It was, his first couple of weeks on the job, and he had never seen the alligator out of the water. That's an important fact to know. And so we rowed the boat, and Kyle hops in, and I said to Kyle, do you have a pair of gloves? And he says, no. Why? And I said, well, the alligator's going to want to try to get away. It might be a problem. So what you need to do is pull your coat down over your hand because it's a cable, like a wire, and you're going to need to hold on to that till we get them to shore. Now on shore we had Dad and my husband, and that worked out really well. They're all set up on shore, but first Kyle and I have to get the alligator to shore. So we're out there, we glide over with the rowboat. I'm really careful, I back it in backwards, and I'm rowing the boat. Kyle reaches out and gently grabs the milk jug and the wire snare, and I'm very gently rowing towards shore. Things are going very, very well until the alligator's feet hit the ground, hit the floor on the bottom of the pond. And then the alligator realized that he was no longer just having an extensive wet dream. So, hey, I'm hot for alligator world. Anyway, so the alligator all of a sudden decided he didn't want to go where we wanted him to go. And poor Kyle is sitting in the back of the John boat, holding on to a 10-foot alligator with a wire snare. And the alligator decided he didn't want to be there. So he was going around the boat this way, and Kyle was going this way, and then finally the alligator reaches up out of the water, and Doug was on the other side, and Doug says, my God, if you could see his face. Not the alligator's, but Kyle's. He looked like Roadrunner. His eyes were coming out of his head, and he's got his only hand holding onto a wire cable with the alligator. Now I rowed as hard as I could, but I could not row against the alligator's strength. So eventually my husband Doug had to trot into the water a little bit, help grab the boat, staying out of the way of the alligator, and then we wrestled that alligator and put him back into this big wooden crate, and then we decided it was time for him to go into hibernation for the winter. So we took him to my dad's basement. Now in my dad's basement is where the alligators, the tortoises, and the snakes are stored for the winter, much to my stepmother's dismay. But that's what happens with the alligator. So we did rescue all the alligators, except there were 2 alligators that decided not to come to Mama when she called. So we won't talk about that. It could be interesting. But we do always have a lot of interesting things going on here. We have people that ask a lot of very silly questions. People call us up on the phone. Do you have animals there? Yes. Do you have live animals there? Yes, we do. Okay. And then we get people, can I get there from here? No. No, you cannot. You are just too dumb to come to the zoo. That's it. No. We don't allow people that dumb that can't get here. You can't get there. There are no roads. When truth be told, and everybody that lives in Beaverville knows, all roads lead to Beaverville. So that's kind of an interesting thing. And then we have all sorts of other questions that people call us up and ask. Is your zoo child appropriate? Is your zoo kid appropriate? We had somebody call and say, is your zoo kid appropriate? What do they think we're doing out there with these animals? You know, this is not one of those television stations.
Well, unless the roosters, right?
And in the spring it's the bears, then there's the lions, but you know, you just tell the kids they're playing leapfrog. There you go. I mean, how do you think us country kids learned about things, right? Anyway, so is your zoo child appropriate? Is it good for the zoo? Are the kids welcome at the zoo? Yes, the animals would love to have them over for dinner. So we get all sorts of good questions. I especially love the ones that they ask Doug, my husband. Now, there's a lady who comes to the zoo. She's a season's passer. She's a dear friend of mine, so it's okay that I make fun of her. She said so. All right? Now, she comes to the zoo. She asks a million questions, which is no problem because that's my job. My job here at the zoo is actually to educate the people who come here and to take care of all the babies that I get. So I like doing that. I have no problem with it. But it's not exactly Doug's forte. So one day, this lady comes up and she says to Doug a whole bunch of questions. And Doug stands there, straight faced, and says, I don't know, I just started working here yesterday. And I know for a fact at that point he had been here 20 years. And she just kept asking questions, and there's Doug patiently just sitting there waiting for her to finish asking questions, and he's sitting in his khaki Space Farms uniform. It says Space Farms on one side, it says Doug on the other side, and this lady says, what's your name? And Doug says, George. To this day, whenever she sees me, she says, how's your husband George? Oh, he's fine. So we always have a lot of crazy things going on here. Sometimes when I go out on the road, we have bad things happen. One time, and I know I'm amongst gun enthusiasts here, so I don't have a problem telling gun jokes here. Nobody has a problem with guns in here, right? I hope not, because some of them will. Just to let you know. But anyway, so one time I'm out giving a speech to the Policemen's Benevolent Association. So in order to make it a speech that the policemen would really like, you know, I took a lion cub. That's kind of cool. And I had an owl at the time and a snake. So I did my snake stuff. And then I had listened to my dad, and Dad showed me which guns were the really, really cool ones. So I took some guns with me. Now I just put them in my satchel, put them in the back of the car, and drove here and gave my speech on the animals. And then I gave my speech on the rifles and on the guns. And I parroted word for word what my dad had taught me. Because I didn't know a lot about the guns and rifling and the pan and the flash powder and all that stuff. I know it now, but I didn't know it then. So I parroted it word for word for word. And I dressed up to go to this speech. I had a blazer on and a nice pair of pants and a t-shirt. And so I'm, you know, feeling pretty proud of myself because I remembered everything that Dad had taught me. And I told those police officers. And at the end of my speech, I asked, is there any questions? And the one, you know, they of different questions, and then the one cop in the back says, "What licenses do you have to carry these concealed weapons?" And I'm thinking, I got trouble. Beaverville doesn't even have sidewalks to roll up at 7 o'clock. My brother Parker was home. He had 3 little kids. My husband's home with our daughter, probably both asleep by 9:30, 10 o'clock. My dad goes to bed at 7. I'm going to jail. What are you going to do? For sure, I'm going to jail this time. And I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm thinking, and I'm thinking. And I said, "Well, sir, in order to have a completely concealed weapon, you do have to have the appropriate ammunition. And I don't have any patch, any powder, or any balls." And then I repeated it, and I said, "I don't have any balls, but I got a full set," and I pulled back my blazer. "I got a full set of 38s and a set of 45s. And the gentlemen all laughed, and I quickly packed up my guns, tucked them down. Because you do always have to be careful about what you say in public. Now, being a zookeeper, I mean, and I know a lot of you commented that I look really nice tonight, and thank you for that. I do. And everybody's used to seeing me in my zoo poo uniform. I understand that, but that's my life, and I love it. But, you know, every now and then I make the attempt. So I decided I'd get myself some new makeup. So I go to the makeup counter, and they have green mascara. And I'm like, wow, this is really cool. I'll get some, because I have great green eyes. And so the next day, I go to work, and I have my green mascara on. And my husband drives past me, and Doug says, "Hey, want to go out to dinner tonight?" And I said, "Sure." And so he drives right over. I think, boy, this mascara is working pretty good. You know, then my wink, you know. And so then that night, we go home after work. He takes a shower. I change my clothes. I touch up the makeup, because the green mascara must be doing something. And so I touch it all up, and we're sitting across the table from each other at Applebee's, and he's looking at me, and he's talking to me, and he's looking at me, and he's tipping his head. And I'm thinking, boy, this makeup's really good. And then finally Doug says, "Did you get new makeup today?" I said, "Oh, he noticed, he noticed. We've been married 25 years, and he still notices if I change my makeup. That's wonderful." And so I said, "Yeah, I did. I got new makeup today." He said, "Good, you better start using it, because the stuff you got on's gone moldy." So that's kind of the story of my life, you know. Things, you know, I really try hard to have, you know, good intentions, and then, you know, being almost getting arrested for this or for that, and just talking and getting myself into big trouble sometimes. But I'd like to leave you with one constant idea, that there's always something nifty happening here at the zoo. Like, for instance, one day, I'm getting ready to worm the monkeys, okay? And so I make up the monkey wormer medicine in peanut butter, and then I put it in Ritz crackers. So we have 2 baboons that weigh 40 pounds apiece. We have 2 rhesus monkeys that weigh about 10 pounds apiece. So if you add that up, that's 100 pounds worth of monkeys. And I had 4 different peanut butter crackers all set up with the right amount of medicine in them. Good. And I put it on top of the monkey food, because I cut up bananas and apples and fruits and grapes and things for the monkeys. And when I'm walking through the building, and I come across my dad, and I said, "Dad, we got to feed the cottonmouth moccasins, and it's a 2-person job." It's a 2-person job because zoological protocol says that any dangerous job, there should be 2 people. One person actually does the job. The other person goes for help in case you need it. Because just one more person is not going to help in a dangerous situation. You're going to need a whole staff full of people. And it's happened, and we've done it. And so anyway, so I said, "Dad, I need to feed the moccasins." And Dad says, "Well, I got to go pick up a dead deer. Let's do it right now." Okay, fine. So I put the pails with the monkey biscuits and the medicine and the fruit on a table. And I walk into that bathroom over there, which is, what, 20 feet away from where my dad was sitting. And I'm quick on catching mice. I've been doing it for years. I get a little bucket, and I'm catching out 8 mice. I have 8 moccasins, I needed 8 mice. So it went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. I walk myself back out, there's my dad sitting there eating the damn crackers.
I stopped scratching my butt.
I know. And it worked really well because, you know, I said, Dad, you can't do that. You can't eat the crackers and have medicine in it. He said, oh, I'm okay. And I'm thinking in my head, okay, that should be fine. It was only 100 pounds worth of medicine, and Dad weighs quite a bit more than 100 pounds. So I'm thinking in my head, okay, Dad's going to be fine. It's not a problem. And then I'm like, uh-oh. Dad's on several medications. Matter of fact, I think about 6 different medications. Now, when you go to the pharmacy, they have a big computer system. They plug in, this is going to interact with that, and this is going to... I figured, uh-oh. So I was going to call my doctor, Dr. Saradarian. However, I didn't know if she knew a lot about ivermectin. So I figured, okay, I'll call the vet. So I go and I call Ted, and I say, hey, Ted, you know, my dad just ate the monkey medicine. What do I do? And Ted, at least he's thinking the same way that I do. He says to me, let's see, there's 100 pounds worth of monkey you got. Way more than 100 pounds. It's not a problem. And then I said, Ted, Dad's on 6 different medications. He said, oh, wait a minute. Let me call the pharmacist. So he calls the pharmacist, and then the pharmacist talks to Ted. Ted calls me back, says, your dad will be okay. I said, oh, good. Before my dad got to get into the car to go get that dead deer, everybody in Beamerville knew that my dad was eating that monkey. What are you going to do, you know? There's always something going on here at the zoo. So it gets a little crazy. Same day, well, not same day, different time, the biggest snake we have, the 20-foot anaconda, not anaconda, ball python. Sorry.
Reticulated.
Reticulated, sorry, Pop. Almost didn't make that way. The reticulated python grabs Dad by the hand. It's like, uh-oh, now we got trouble. And all Dad said, and to his credit, he just stood there and said, uh-oh, Lori, he's got me. And again, here I am. I'm the second person on the job. Dad's performing the procedure by putting the rabbit into the cage. The snake goes past the rabbit, but Dad had just kind of took care of the rabbit. So his hand smelled like rabbit, and Dad's hand was moving. The snake grabs Dad's hand. And I'm like, okay, we got trouble now. Dad says, Lori, he's got me. That's all he said. Then he says, close the door. So I close the door on Dad's arm while his hand is in with the snake. The snake's got him in his mouth. And I'm like, oh boy, okay. What do you want to do next, Dad? I said, okay. So we're right outside that back door. There's a lever on that door handle. So I have to reach. I'm holding the door shut. I reach back with my foot and I kick the lever open. And inside that door in the kitchen was a kid, 14 years old, first day on the job. And I said, Mason, get me some help. And he comes, okay, here I come. I'm like, oh no, this is just not going to do. No. I said, get Parker, get Doug, get everybody you can, get the guys here. So they come in, they make phone calls. In the meantime, I'm just holding the door shut. And I'm holding that door shut so hard that my butt cheeks started to hurt. That's how But that snake wanted to come out. And then Dad says, Lori, you got to open the door a little bit. I got to put my other hand in there. I'm like, oh, great. So Dad takes his other, the one hand's got the snake's biting on him. Dad takes his other hand in and curls it underneath there and pulls the snake's mouth open. And so, of course, now the snake knows that Dad is still alive. So the snake coils around both hands and has him in a handcuff. He's in his snake handcuffs. And I'm sitting there like, okay. All right, I'm sure it's been 3 or 4 hours now. Where's Parker? Where's Doug? It had actually only been a couple of minutes because the guys came real quick. So Parker shows up on scene, and I said, Parker, get this door. It's killing me. He says, okay. I said, what do you need? He said, I need a pair of gloves. I know where the gloves are. So I come running through the kitchen door. I go through the swinging doors, run through here. People are sitting here in the restaurant thinking, something is up. I scale these steps, never touching one. You didn't think I could jump it. Go in the office, I climb up on a chair, reach up to the top shelf, get the gloves, come back down, jump these steps, run back to those swinging doors, and I hear somebody say, who was that masked woman? I go out the back door, and I hold the glove open, and Parker puts his hand in. I said, oh, great. Okay, we're on our way. And so then Parker says, okay, open the door. So Doug's standing there, Parker's here, Dad's here, I'm behind Parker. And so then we open the door, and Parker grabs the snake butt with his ungloved hand, around the neck. And then he gets his other gloved hand in there, and the snake comes out, and Parker takes the gloved hand, pries the snake's mouth open, and my dad finally says a couple more words. He says, oh! And he takes his hand out of the mouth. It's dripping blood. Dad's on blood thinners. And he takes 5 or 6 steps backwards and leans on the back wall. Okay, fine. I know my dad's going down. That's it. He's going to have a heart attack. He's old. These big bad things are going to happen. And I'm standing there, and Doug is there, and Doug's got other arm on Dad. I've got one arm on Dad's one arm, and we're standing there. There's blood spattered all over the wall. Dad's dripping all over because he's on blood thinners. And finally, you know, Dad said, I'm going to be okay. I'm all right. And Parker says, somebody help me with this goddamn snake. In the meanwhile, the snake had come out of the case and coiled around Parker's legs. Like, ah! So anyway, we left Dad leaning on the wall, and we picked up, Doug and I and Parker picked up the snake, threw the snake back in, and then Parker, of course, being considerate of the snake, picks up the rabbit, the dead rabbit, that was the snake was supposed to eat, and threw it in for the snake. Close the door up. Okay, fine. And then everybody looks around. Dad's still standing in an upright position. All right, that's good. And I said, okay, come on, Dad. We're going to take you to the hospital. I'm not going to the hospital. I said, Dad, you need to go to the hospital and get some antibiotics. You're bleeding pretty heavy. No, I'm just going to go sit over there and put my hand in the bucket. Okay, so Jill comes out, and I said, Jill, this is pretty messy. She said, okay. She said, what do you need? I said, I need the first aid kit, and I need a chair. We're going to go over to Grandma's hose. So Jill comes out, we got the chair, we got Dad sitting by the hose, we fill up the bucket with cold water to help stop the bleeding. Dad stops bleeding, and that's wonderful. And then we get some bandage, and I'm putting bandage on it, and he's sitting by Grandma's house, and he's sitting there the whole time, and I keep watching him, and I know he's going to pass out. I mean, I know he's going to go down. And he's like, he's fine, he's not even shaking. And I said, okay, Dad, what do you want to do now? You really should go to the hospital. Let's go to the hospital. We got to get you some antibiotics. Dad says, no, I'm a farmer. I don't need no antibiotics. I'll be okay. So Dad comes around. He said, I'm going to go sit in my chair by admissions. All right. So we walk Dad around. I've got one arm under his arm, and he said, yeah, get away from me. I'm all right. So I sit him down by admissions, and I said, Dad, I'm going to call your doctor because we got to get you some antibiotics. Nah, I don't need any antibiotics. No, I don't need any antibiotics. Okay, Dad, that's fine. Are you okay? Let me get you a drink of water. You lost a lot of blood. We'll replace your fluids. Dad says, okay, I'll have a drink of water. It was really taxing him out. But he was going to take that medication water if he had to. Just the water was going to be enough medicine. So I left Dad there. I walked out on the front porch. So who do you call? Should I call the doctor? No, I call our vet. Hey, Ted, we got a problem. The big snake just got Dad. He's dripping blood all over. They bit him, and it's really bad and nasty, and Dad will not go get some medicine. Ted says, well, I can help you out, but I'm really not supposed to. But go tell him. I said, yes, well, I know. Tell him that there's gram-negative and gram-positive bacteria in the snake's mouth, which is going to really screw up his hand if he doesn't get some antibiotic. Ted says, yes, tell him that. I said, good. I walk over to Dad and tell Dad, Ted says, you've got gram-negative and gram-positive bacteria in your hand, and if you don't get some medicine, you're going to get really screwed up. Dad says, okay. Me and Rodney Dangerfield, we have a lot in common sometimes. But it's always interesting here at the zoo, and I hope that you have enjoyed tonight. And make sure that you eat all the cookies that are here, and the potato chips, because, you know, I'm trying to stay away from that stuff. And thank you very much for your attention. Thank you. I'm so glad you you all could come. So thank you very much.